Okay. Up, up, up. Here we go. Hey everybody, it's Rob. We're just about to get started with this week's episode. Less than 10 minutes left. While you got a couple of minutes, check out otheanthem.com. It's where you can find everything O The Anthem, including the merch store, the podcast, and all of the videos. Open up a new tab.
Anchor.fm/O The Anthem is the place where you can get direct links to all the podcatchers you use to listen to our show every week.
Did you know we record every episode live on Facebook? Of course you do. But make sure that you're liking the page and turning on notifications so you get notified when we go live.
We make a ton of video content between the podcast, the short films, Heretics. YouTube.com/O The Anthem is the place for it all.
And of course you can find me on any social network at Robert N. Cheek.
And me at LegendCB5.
And you can find the podcast at O The Anthem on all your social networks. It takes so long to load. That's the problem.
So,
Yeah.
there just so happened to be a lot of things that happened in Baltimore for this past week.
Oh, yeah.
So should we start in order or should we start with the big ticket items?
I mean, like, here, off the top thing, Corey has been saying for, I don't know, every year, every episode of this podcast, don't get in the harbor. It's a bad idea. By the way, it's swimmable and fishable by 2020, which by my calculations is
tomorrow.
2 days from now. Oh, yeah, 2 days from now as we record it. Tomorrow as you're listening. And last week, a woman fell into the harbor and died.
Yeah.
So I'm not thinking swimmable, fishable by 2020 is gonna.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if it was Stephanie Rawlings Blake?
I mean, it would be better.
I didn't get a name. I'm just hoping it was.
Come on.
I'm gonna prove these motherfuckers wrong. Start jumping in the water.
Wonder what about what?
Well, we haven't seen or heard of a girl, and...
Oh, Ma, come on, seriously?
Not that we would think that, but, we want grandchildren.
Girl first. Need girl, then we get kids.
Grandkids. They're already talking about grandkids. Don't even mention that when she gets here.
Of course. But I'll be thinking about it. Oh, is that her?
Who else is it gonna be?
Oh, go and get it.
I'm going. Oh, shit.
Well, that's a nice greeting.
Sorry, babe.
So excited to finally meet your family.
I know, me too. Listen, before we go in,
What is it?
well, you know basically everything about me.
Well, at this point, I would hope so.
Yeah. But, my parents, the reason I haven't introduced you to them is because,
What is it?
well, they're different than you and me.
What do you mean?
Well, listen, you're great.
Are you ashamed of me, Tommy? Is that why I've never met them?
No, not ashamed. Never ashamed. Opposite of ashamed. It's just that,
Superman?
yeah.
What about it?
Well, my parents are Baddicks, like, really, really, really intense about Batman.
So?
So they expect me to date and marry a nice Batman girl.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Look, I know they're going to love you. It's just that once they get to know you, then we can ease them into the whole Superman thing.
Alright, Tommy. Alright, I just wish you would have given me some kind of warning.
Trust me, they're going to be so happy to meet you, I promise.
As long as I believe in their hero.
Please don't do this now, Steph.
Do what, Tommy? I'm not doing anything at all.
Then why do I get the feeling that I'm in trouble here?
I don't know. Why don't you ask Batman about it?
Shit.
Are you going to keep her standing on the porch all night, Tommy? Invite her in already.
I was going to, Ma.
Tommy, she's beautiful. A real gift from
Pop,
Anthem,
she's
huh?
right here.
It's lovely to meet you both.
You too, dear. Please, please come in. Dinner's ready.
Great, I'm starving.
Suddenly I'm not so hungry.
Oh, Tommy, you're such a joker.
You actually have some sort of really weird intestinal cancer that only seems to be caused by people who swim in shit. Like swim in a river of shit.
Yeah.
And then like just like the moment just sort of like hits me like flashback style, just like
Fish.
and I'm like
Smack.
I'm back at Oregon Ridge jumping in a lake going like I love the water.
Never put it in your mouth. Never put it in your mouth. Why
Well,
would
I
you
never
do
thought
that?
about it until just that second when all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, you got about 3 weeks because you have
Advanced bowel cancer?
you have shit creek cancer.
I feel like though that it's not just that
It's the type of cancer we've only seen from kids in Flint.
it. A whole separate issue about.
By the way, it's still not fixed.
Not fixed.
Just by the way, it's still not fixed.
And
And they don't have water coming their way anymore because they're. I mean, there's a small degree of pride that I feel when our men's basketball team is blowing out like
You mean when
Poland by 70 points or
when
whatever?
a team of professional basketball players beats a bunch of young men from a country who occasionally play basketball? Yeah. It's the Generals versus the Globetrotters,
Right.
over the course of a summer. Yes,
That dream team though, with
the
MJ,
92
yeah,
teams? Yes, the 92 Barcelona
Oh man,
team.
that was great.
No, that was literally Globetrotters because they were doing behind the back passes. No look, and the team from Poland is just like, what game are we playing? I don't even know if this is basketball.
Wait a minute, isn't that technically traveling?
NBA
We
rules.
don't call it here. we don't abide by that rule in America.
He
Boom!
literally picked up the ball and ran from midcourt. It's MJ. He's allowed to do that. It's okay.
I think the one thing I noticed, and this is my only take on this, because I don't get into the false patriotism, and I don't get into the desire for America to win fencing or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's some sports I just don't care about. This week on the Odineth podcast, we talk about the Pro Bowl, Jeter and Walker making it to the Hall of Fame, and Rob throwing away the rest of his career with Kobe talk. And for your consideration, talk about the SAG Awards, the PGA Awards, APA signing the WGA agreement, and a Weinstein update on his trial in New York. In the news, the 2020 curse of pandemic is upon us. Ad spending in the 20 campaign. Impeachment draws 11 million viewers. Trump gives Saudis nuclear tech. and what is exactly like the outcomes of the impeachment trial. And finally, in the Baltimore corner, we talk about Thiru Vignarajah's traffic stops late last year, and a whole lot of intrigue. You don't want to miss it. Coming up right now on the ODM podcast. Hello, internet researcher. You found it. This is Corey, and this is the Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 303 of the Anthem podcast. Possibly the last one. We'll see. Coming from the hashtag OTA LA Studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for listening on your podcatcher of choice, your option for the foreseeable future. Anchor.fm/OTheAnthem, where you can find links to get it on Apple, Spotify, all over the place, right through there.
For the time being, you can find us at facebook.com/OTheAnthem, OTheAnthem on all your favorite social media platforms, including Twitter and Instagram. You can find everything OTheAnthem at youtube.com/OTheAnthem. All the videos are available there, including the recordings of every single episode, and everything, including the store, is available at anthem.com.
Yep.
So where do you want to start today, Corey?
How about everything except for Kobe? Is that possible?
So how about this? Right off the top. Wait, let me get into this whole shot here. Oh wait, I forgot we set up the transition now. Right off the top, I'd like to say that my thoughts in today's podcast are mine and mine alone. They do not reflect the thoughts of or the beliefs or the standing of that's William Corbett Parr Baker or the Anthem podcast. They are mine alone. Thank you.
I'm sure that'll help. Thank you.
So, how about something light? Let's just go to Baltimore first. I think that's a nice quickie.
Yeah, we can knock that one out of the way.
Get some of my negative energy out right here.
Yeah, in the corner.
Yeah, where you get the straight dope. So, the one story that's kind of been pushing around Baltimore this week is about still because they only do polling like every 3 weeks in Baltimore. Yeah. Frontrunner Thiru Vignarajah's not so nice appearance in the news media this week, and not that he did a press conference, not that he had a gaffe. He's not the Trump of Baltimore. The problem is that he has come out to be very much law and order in his campaign, and then
well, as a former assistant district attorney, he I think that he his lane.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you?
That's why he ran for state's attorney last time around.
Well,
I mean, like that's why he argued that he ran for state's attorney that last time around. Really, what happened was Thiru was driving around like 2 a.m. On Greenspring, and got pulled over by a cop because he didn't have any lights on.
Yeah. That
was the reason for the stop. And then once he was stopped, realized that his suspension was or his registration was suspended.
Yes.
Because he hadn't returned a repair order.
Right.
Something that he said that he thought he did but didn't, and that seems to be neither here nor there. The officer was prepared to give him a warning and just sort of let him be on his way.
Because, by the way, the repair order apparently was for headlights. I think I chronicled my own headlight repair order problem on previous episodes of the podcast. But literally in that moment, he could have turned on the headlights. The officer could have seen them, verified that the repair had been made, and just been like, all right, I'm going to give you a warning. Make sure that you go and report that.
Go talk to, I mean, like in any possible scenario, the cop could have said, you we're towing the car, get out, like 100%. Get an Uber home, that sort of thing. He had a lady in the car too who apparently left and took an Uber home. She was in for a criminal defense seminar or something like that. There was no record of any.
Yeah, he was familiar with her, but didn't know anything about her name. She seemed to take an Uber home. So some questions there. About that lady, but
nobody seems to want to dig too deep into that. But I don't know if she's out there. I wouldn't mind hearing what your reactions to the whole thing were and what you do for a living. But
if you'd like to speak about that, I think that anyone would be here
because
about
he made the argument she was a lawyer and he was trying to convince her to come to Baltimore to practice law.
Yeah,
and that's great because Baltimore could use some talented lawyers. I would like to discuss the potential ability of you being a lawyer in the state of Maryland.
Yeah.
Have you passed the bar, for instance? Would be one question I have. Another would be, were you being paid for this time out?
right.
Because
Also, as
I can't
someone-
get my lawyer to go ride around with me without putting out a couple shillings.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
and also
is this an hourly thing or is this a nightly expense? Are you
as a lawyer, I don't
pro bono, perhaps?
As a lawyer, I don't bail out of the car whenever the cops get involved. I tend to engage when cops get involved. I can think of other professions though that
May not want to.
may not want to be involved with the cops.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the real controversy, since we don't know anything about his passenger,
Yeah.
is that immediately upon approaching the car, announcing the reason for the stop, Theroux asked him to turn off his body camera.
Yeah.
Which you're not supposed to do.
I mean, you can. There's definitely examples where people can ask for the body camera to go off.
Yes.
Sometimes it usually has to do with a victim of a crime.
Right.
Like, so if I was a woman who was involved in a domestic violence situation and I see a cop and I say, "Hey, can you please turn off your body cam? I need to talk to you about what my husband is doing to me."
Yes.
Then that's let's turn this off. Let's not get the record of
And
this like right here.
the rules of professional conduct, in fact, I think outline that the only reasons you're supposed to turn it off are for victim protection purposes.
Right.
And if you are the victim of a traffic stop, that doesn't really apply
Yeah.
to you.
I mean, I guess you could make an argument for any reason that you would want the camera turned off, but generally speaking, it's not supposed to.
And it was off for the entire stop. So it's not as if he said something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm in the midst of a very important investigation. Don't record this." Or, "I'm going to say some things to you that are lies because this is part of an investigation."
Yeah.
Okay, turn it back on. And then, it came back on and they did the whole thing.
Well, I mean, it clearly, whoever pulled him over, the first officer that pulled him over realized pretty quickly that he was a person of notoriety,
Yes.
of influence.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm going to be a little bit more accommodating with this person than I would be to, say, Freddie Gray.
Or me.
Or Rob.
Or me.
Who is constantly fingering his nose at the police. Amongst
Society.
others.
Society
Amongst
as a
others. Really, to be honest, a traffic stop doesn't really raise the worries for me here. I think the thing that gets me about this whole situation is the tweeting of the story that was so I was trying to Twitter is what I was looking for. I was going through all my apps. I'm like, what am I looking for? Twitter is what I was looking for. The story had originally been written by one of the women who's in charge of the Undisclosed podcast. I can't remember exactly who it
Amelia.
is right now. Was it Amelia?
At Amelia. Yeah. Yes, but at Amelia is the start of her.
Hold on. Got it right here.
Yep.
She had written up a really wonderful post that you can find on my Twitter account. That was Justine Barron
Okay.
who did it.
I think Amelia might have retweeted it. That's
Yeah,
how
I think they
saw
were
it.
all going on about
Yeah.
it. But basically, she had written up a whole little post, and she had reached out to the Theroux campaign for comments, as you normally do, and didn't immediately get comment back, but immediately the story went out on the Baltimore Sun, which is starting to do this whole, is Theroux just feeding the story to the Baltimore Sun so he gets to tell it his way rather
Right.
than answering questions. And there was a lot of things that were going on this week that bothered me, particularly Neiman on WL. I was listening to a bit of his podcast, and he had started saying the story of Theroux exclusively broken by the Baltimore Sun. And I'm just like, let's pump the brakes here a little bit because, there's receipts.
Yeah.
I just what bothers me about this is how clearly I feel like I can see snake oil salesmen coming, and Theroux is like a classic snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
And it's not that like this one incident is like damaging enough that he shouldn't be able to run for mayor. Like there's no real crime here. There's a misdemeanor maybe you could discuss.
Yeah. Yeah, and
but
it's
nothing, no crime that like rises to the thing of like you've lost the public trust. It's not, like even Marion Barry wasn't like a loss of the public trust.
It's not like he sold gift cards that were meant for children to someone else.
He just enjoyed cocaine and hookers.
Yes,
and I don't know if, I mean, it's kind of a crime, but I don't know. I feel like with snake oil salesmen though, if there's any kind of like small whiff that there might be problems, then that's your opportunity to like slowly back away. Like, maybe Theroux shouldn't be the guy, not because this incident is so bad. It's just because I don't know how much I can trust him. And if like one little incident is to be ballooning all these questions that nobody seems to answer, then that's worthy of something. Like,
yeah. And I put in our show notes 2 stops because apparently during questioning of someone in the extent of this, someone mentioned a stop from 2018 and then quickly covered themselves and said, 2019. And that led to a little bit of investigation about like, has he done this before?
Yeah. And
that maybe he is of the habit of getting pulled over, asking the officers to turn off their body cams, and then saying something along the lines of, do you know who I fucking am? Why are you pulling me over? And then getting out of tickets, which would not really align with the democratic ideals of how one should operate as someone who wants to be mayor of Baltimore.
Well,
so,
and I know a lot of people were like sort of getting on his case about the don't you know, or like there's 600 officers down and you're doing this right now. Like it sounds very bitchy to say, but it legally speaking, it can be part of a strategy you can use to make the officer feel like there's more important things he should be worried about. Yeah, and like it's one of those. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Much like when somebody asks for your license or registration, sometimes the $20 bill snuck inside the license works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Got to know who you're dealing with.
It's a. I'm going to tell you this about that one though. It either works or it really doesn't. So be prepared for that. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just one of those things. Like, I just don't.
But again, I point out to the fact that Sheila Dixon got the second highest number of votes in the last mayoral election. Yeah. Then we elected Catherine Pugh, who was at the time and then continued to abuse her position in order to have personal gain. Yes. So will it matter that Theroux asked an officer to turn off his body cam? And if there is any fallout from it, will there be any impact? The likely answer is absolutely not. I
mean, like, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Is like he didn't do anything that rises to the realm of like this is clearly unelectable or anything like that. It's just like one of those things that my ire and my attention peaks a lot when anything that involves him happens, because I'm so apt to believe that it's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like,
it reminds me a lot of 2016 though, where it's just like, oh well, any number of these things is going to sink this campaign, and none of them just will. 2020 wild, y'all. It just keeps on going, and we will watch him probably be elected mayor of Baltimore. So, in what horribleness, I can't even fathom.
And then we have a brand new controversy that'll come from that, I'm sure. And then we'll be like, oh, why didn't we see it coming with Theroux? And then me and you will just be sitting here going like, hey, guys.
We said something about this way back when he ran for state's attorney.
Why not join us on the right side of history?
So let's go from that to what I think is going to be the biggest story of the week. Okay. Absolutely the page turner of the week. Do you know about the 20s curse, Corey?
No.
Okay. So there is this thing that people were joking about as we approached 2020, and that is 20s have been known in the 20th century for like, hey, everything's great, right? Like
the Roaring 20s.
Roaring 20s. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote about the amazing, huge parties and the lavish lifestyle and everything of the 20s. But what you don't know about is that in every century since basically recorded history, the 20th year of that century has been horribly, horribly bad. 1620s, 1720s, 1820s, and 1920s. Worldwide pandemic has been either ongoing or was started and then continued after that. Most recently, the soldiers returning from World War I brought back Spanish flu all across the globe and killed about an eighth of the world's population.
Yeah.
And then in the 1820s, also a pandemic. 1720s, pandemic. 1620s, we start getting into Black Plague territory. And then, before that, things more terrible than the Black Plague, which, by the way, I don't even want to think about. Like, boils on the skin that burst black liquid out and then infect everyone around you. Sounds pretty bad. And then like, oh, that wasn't even the worst thing around then. And I'm like, God, it was horrible to live there. But it's 2020 now, and yet a new pandemic is breaking out around the world. This one, much like everything horrible that has to do with our society, came from China. I'm just saying, SARS came from China.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from.
It's like all the bad viruses come from there. But coronavirus was a largely Asian problem. Hong Kong is apparently shutting down their movie theaters, their carnivals, any public place shut down now. Also, put a real damper on the protesting that's been happening because the Chinese government now basically is like, go on, protest all you want, guys. We're lifting all bans on protesting. All protesters, welcome in the street. Yes, get out as much as you would like, please. In close
Intermingle
with
with one another,
as
please.
As much as possible. But it started out in Western China and it moved to the coast and then into Macau and Hong Kong, Shanghai, Beijing. And we just had our first reported case of coronavirus that has now been confirmed as of 8 minutes ago in Orange County, California. So it's now made its way to the United States.
It had been in the United States before that. I think it was in Seattle and Chicago or something like that before.
So yeah, it was in urban areas. And I guess you could call Orange County urban. But I think the concern with the Orange County case is that the person has no link to international travel directly. This person may have been in Seattle or wherever, come in contact with the infected person there, and then come back home, which is not a good sign.
Yeah, that's not great.
Not a good sign. So kiss your loved ones and hold them tightly. As with any
unless you have the virus.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, if you have coronavirus, don't do that. And as with any natural disaster, find a nice, sturdy door frame. Place your head between your knees and kiss your ass goodbye because we're all dead. But luckily, we all live in a two-dimensional projection of three-dimensional space, so none of this even matters.
I would like to believe that hopefully this doesn't rise to the same level of a Black Plague or something like that, and hopefully we're able to sort of get on top of it a little bit and spread keep the rise of spreading.
I just remember Ebola.
Yeah,
friend of the show EP, who was literally freaking out because they had to go through like level 5 contagion drills at the hospital she was working at, where they're like, all right, you have 90 seconds to put on all your equipment or you're dead. So, all right, ready, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would scare the shit out of me. And then she was telling us about that. And then I saw on the news a janitor washing off the sidewalk with a hose where a guy collapsed and then vomited. And then it was found out he had Ebola. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there's the guy spraying the sidewalk down with a hose.
No special mask, no nothing. Putting it in the water supply.
Yep, just pushing it down into the gutter. And like the cops standing by, just like, and you see the guy.
That's some good work there, Lou.
But one of the cops over on the edge is like pointing at the guy and like looking at his compadre, like, you think you should be doing that? I feel like.
Should we stop him?
We should probably stop him, right? But if we get close, we could get infected. So, maybe not. You think I could hit him from here? Could I shoot him from here? You think that would stop this? Or, but yeah, and
it'd
that's
be
what
no good. His dead body would land in the puddle that would go.
But that's what I think about. It's like, I have faith that we can stop these kind of outbreaks. And then I think about that video of cops standing around while the guy hoses down a sidewalk where an Ebola victim died. And I don't know. But hope for the best, folks.
I think there's more to come with this, obviously. But for right now, I'm hoping that all the precautions are being taken to properly stay on top of this. But as always, your government is the one in charge of this, so good luck.
And we'll record to the bitter end. So if you see us here with sunken eyes and some sort of
we'll live stream my camera to the hospital room where I'm dying.
Beep Beep. Corey, I'm getting a little bleed through from the monitor. Could you turn that down just a bit?
Rob, I would appreciate if you stopped talking about this subject because I feel like it's doing bad things to the podcast. I'm flatlining in the background. I'm just like, this is my concern.
Yeah. So we'll keep you posted as long as there is power and internet and society hasn't shut down from global pandemic. So, the next topic, Corey, I had gotten into earlier today, and we got into a bit of a tussle about it, and I think that is really important. It's about the Weinstein trials and Trump, because you kind of got approached this week by some people who have no understanding really about what the process is for what's going on.
Well, so like I was trying to explain that like somebody had asked me about the Weinstein case, and they're just like, like I saw his lawyers trying to get this case thrown out, and I was just like, yeah, that happens all the time. And they're just like, well, why? Why would they? Like, how is this a thing? And I'm like, well, part of the legal process is like, if you have a client like Harvey Weinstein, and you're trying to find any reason why this trial has to end in a mistrial. Like, you're trying to see the government's case and then be able to shut this thing down and be able to try it again and make them spend more money to try it again and in the second trial.
Flashback to
or if you get enough mistrials, then they might say this isn't worth it and stop prosecuting you. But
we talked about the Adnan Syed trial where that was actually used really well. They got a mistrial in the first trial. It allowed the defense to prep for the second trial, and then the government came back in the second trial with a completely different theory of the crime than they had in the first trial. So it was just
the same
hey, wait,
thing.
yes, Keith Davis.
Keith Davis, I'm sorry.
Where 5 times they came back with 5 different theories of the crime. So every time they got a mistrial, they just could not prepare any better.
But I mean, like, this is at one point they had when interviewing prospective jurors, they were saying, do you watch Law and Order and stuff like that? And people are like, what kind of ridiculous question is that? Like, why does that matter at all? But like, there is a thing about like people who think a trial based off of what they see on TV is like how a trial is going to be.
Yeah.
Something that you don't see in TV trials that happen a lot is a lawyer getting really offended by some little minor thing and saying, Judge, I don't see how we could possibly go on. The state just said that my client is a rapist. And by saying that out loud on the record without a witness to back up that statement is completely inappropriate for the jury to have heard. And I demand you declare a mistrial.
Yeah.
And most, 99.9% of the time, the judge goes, shut up, sit down.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, and I'm not playing this game.
Like, overruled, moving on. Yeah, let's go.
But I mean, like, this is part of how it happens when you have a client who is, especially a notorious client, like somebody that a lot of people know about. There's more opportunities for the state to like step in it and hopefully raise that to the level of a mistrial. Yeah. And that's all his attorneys are trying to do right now.
It will continue literally through the entire state's case.
Yeah.
Until they close out any opportunity to just say, I believe that the jury has become
Every
prejudiced.
couple days they're going to say something has happened. We need a mistrial. Yeah. And the judge will just eventually get so angry he'll say, if you ask me again without a good reason, then I'm just going to fine you in contempt or something like that.
And, the last motion that the defense makes before they start their case is a motion for a guilty finding based on a motion for not guilty finding based on a lack of evidence presented by the state, and then a motion for mistrial based on mispresented evidence by the state. And even if I was never in a trial that required asking for a mistrial that often. Yeah. It is everything that you do every single time. Just, all right, state wraps up their case in a criminal trial. And you're like, okay, I'm going to ask for
it's the lawyer version of a football player going up to the ref and saying, where's the flag? Like,
well, and not even that. It's I don't know that there is a sports metaphor. It's just like, if you sit in a courtroom long enough and they do like 3 or 4 criminal trials in a row, you'll hear the attorneys do it, and it's always half-hearted because it's going to get turned down, but it's like, I'm going to do this anyway. Like, maybe the judge has heard something, or listen, there's 5 charges, and maybe he just was keeping notes, and he's going to say, you know what, charge 4, they missed one of the counts that's supposed to be included, and because they didn't present any evidence on that, I'm going to grant your request of a dismissal for charge 4. Yeah. Okay, great. Because
I mean, the best case for it is the state does something wrong.
Yes.
And you can actually, and how wrong the judgment of the judge. Like, I mentioned some evidence that I'm not supposed to talk about in this case. Like, it was agreed upon that won't be discussed in pretrial motions.
Yeah.
If I casually mention it, then I might get admonished by the judge.
Right.
But probably not a mistrial. If I bring it up in big detail to the jury,
yes,
then I could possibly be looking at a mistrial for my case. So it's like one of those things that like it's part of the process, and it's hard to understand if you don't have experience in the courtroom.
Now, here's the other thing, too. If it's a piece of evidence I'm going to present in a witness 3 witnesses from now, but I haven't brought it up yet, but I mention it early, the defense will ask for a mistrial because I have brought up evidence which has not been entered into the record. Yeah. And if the judge and I and the defense attorney all know that I'm going to bring up a witness in 3 witnesses that's going to speak to that very fact, the judge will just say, overruled, let's move on to the next witness. Because you as a defense attorney are just, again, looking for anything you can to get that mistrial. Yeah. And we all know that that's maybe the judge is going to say, you know what? By presenting that piece of evidence out of order, you have prejudiced the jury against what they're going to hear from the next few witnesses, and you've prejudiced his cross. So, I'm going to grant the mistrial. Next time, remember the order of your witnesses and don't bring up things before they testify to them. Yeah. And some really strong law and order justices or judges will do that. Yeah. They will say, until it is mentioned by a witness here, it does not exist. And if you bring it up out of order, then I will strike the entire trial. Right. Because it will prejudice the jury against everything they hear after that. And how can you cross on something that has not been presented to the jury yet? So it's like I can't even defeat that. They're going to be thinking about this fact that hasn't been presented, and I can't do anything about it.
That's why another common time where you'll hear it a lot is even though it's kind of accepted to do it in your opening arguments, to talk about something you will hear from some witness during the course of the trial, is a popular time for somebody to declare the mistrial, because it's like he's testifying to the case before it's been from a actual witness.
And far more often what you see is them bringing up documents. They're like, I'm going to show you this document. Now, what this expert is going to tell you about this document is this. You're a little safer with that because you are kind of framing the document that you're showing them. Yeah. You will not see them say, I'm going to call this witness and what they are going to tell you is this. Because now you are testifying to what they're going to testify to, rather than, I have an expert. He says that this document means this, and he's going to clarify even more than I am with you now. Yeah. What that actually means. Like, the fact that the T's are crossed at an angle means that he was very angry when he signed this.
Well, and tying it into what's going on with impeachment right now. Right, yeah. The legal argument of Trump's team, which is the defense in this case, is basically that the burden has not been reached in which to prosecute. And that it should be, the case should be thrown out under the same pretenses that Weinstein's case is going. Because the threshold has not been met, and they haven't proven anything. Now, the other side of the argument is that we haven't been able to talk to the people to properly prove anything. Yeah, yeah. And we would really like to speak to those people before we make a final decision. And that's basically where that one is going. But getting into the discussion about it a lot over the course of this last week with impeachment stuff and people knowing that I know how this process works a little bit. It's like I just get a lot of questions about, like, so at what point do enough Republican senators change their mind and convict Trump? And I'm just like, that's not the game we're exactly playing right now. Because I think that the event that would have to happen in order for that for a conviction to happen at this point, something humongous would have to happen. Yeah. And if we're looking at it in terms of the Nixon impeachment, which didn't actually, get to the impeachment part, but Nixon was popular with the Republicans like Trump is popular with Republicans, and he was not going to be impeached until the news of, secret tapes and Watergate and everything like that, like, really came out, and the full scope of the investigation was known. Yeah, yeah. Then things changed very quickly. Like, as soon as it was realized that everything was true with Watergate, then it became a lot harder to stick with Nixon. Well, the problem was that was where all the change really happened.
A lot of them rode his coattails through the 62? No, 68, 72 election. So they were like, hey, I owe this guy something. I got elected because he got reelected.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were planning on riding those coattails through 74, maybe even 76, even though there'd be a new president then. But when it became clear that Nixon would be an albatross around your neck, not a boon to your election campaign,
Right.
now I can turn tail on him. The problem is what happens that makes Trump an albatross for someone rather than a boon. And I don't know that thing exists. And what I said earlier was to Corey in the pre-show meeting was that essentially what we have now is a trial where usually we try to get the most impartial jury that we can. That doesn't exist in impeachment. Corey is on trial for murder, and essentially we have a jury that is made up of, on one side, six people on each side. We have O.J. Simpson and Fred Goldman on one side, as two parts of those. And then just think of every person who's ever gotten off for a murder and the person who wishes that they had gotten convicted of that murder. And we divide the 12 into those 6 people because there are Republicans who are literally the O.J. Simpson saying, hey, listen, people get falsely accused of murder all the time. I don't know why you would think that he did it.
I don't know why I'm the one who did it.
Yeah, why would you look at this guy and say that he's the one who did it? And by the way, have you seen what these guys are up to? I feel like they're just trying to get this civil lawsuit.
I would make the argument that Adam Schiff did a very admirable job bringing up all the points that seem reasonable enough for why we should want to have additional witnesses and why we should want to hear more before closing up this case. The Trump legal team is sort of taking it from the perspective of here are all the things that happened along the way that weren't quite on the level, and this is why it doesn't reach that level of convictable. I think that it's there's not enough there on the Trump side to really say that they overstep. Like the first thing that they played on the opening arguments was Adam Schiff doing the fake transcript of the call, essentially. And it was clear what he was doing was joking around about what was being said. But yes, he did do that on the record, and that is a little bit of a problem. Mm-hmm. But it's also like it's kind of a little pot calling the kettle black because Trump is putting things on the record all the time that he won't go into court and say. So, if Trump wants to speak on the record about this, then I think they would gladly have him.
Of course,
but he doesn't seem to want to do that. So
funny how that works.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, if I was a criminal defense lawyer, I would never recommend that my client get on the stand. But sure could clear up a lot of questions. Could end this thing pretty quickly if you decided to do that.
Yep. And instead, it will drag on forever. The first day of impeachment, which was Adam Schiff's day one.
Tuesday, during the day, too.
Garnered 11 million viewers, which I don't know what that is a share on a Tuesday afternoon like that, but... I got to imagine that's like a 40 share on a Tuesday afternoon.
I imagine it's a pretty big number.
Yeah. And then it waned as the week went on, but I think also because the Republicans were putting on their argument and maybe not the most popular, but people were really there to see what the Democrats had to say. We kind of already knew what the Republicans were going to say.
Yeah.
And then next week, the Republicans wrap up, and then we move on to the next phase, and I think we'll see what the day-to-day numbers will look like. During the Clinton impeachment, I was one of those numbers, coming home from school every day to watch the afternoon impeachment hearings, which actually run like midday here. And it's very weird to be like 11 to 3 or something like that. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that as strong as people hope that it will. Apparently, no one is calling their Democratic senators or congressmen, and people are appalled by this. And I'm like, listen, what are we going to call and say?
Here's the thing, part of the thing that gets brought, or that I'm getting asked about a lot, is what can I do? What can I do to change this thing? And my argument is that there isn't really anything that you personally. It would take a lot of people to do something to change this thing. So, whatever means you have of getting a lot of people to do something, I would say that's your best hope. If you know people who live in states with senators where there are on the fence or could conceivably be on the fence, Martha McSally is not like a likely voter for more witness.
Right, yeah.
But she was not elected. She lost her election.
Right.
And was appointed to the seat. So she is not in like the firmest of ground, and Arizona is kind of having that purplish. They just elected a Democratic senator, so it's starting to turn a little bit, and she might find herself on the outside looking in. Impeachment, from all the polls I've seen, is like overwhelmingly, even amongst Republicans, for wanting to see more witnesses because they feel like at the very least they should speak publicly on this before they just throw it away.
If you're gonna do it, do it. You know. So
I mean, the question is like the thing that really your telltale signs that this is going to be a sham are like when apparently Susan Collins had written a note to John Roberts, and John Roberts had admonished both sides for not treating the Senate with the proper amount of respect. And what apparently had started the process of her writing that note to send up to John Roberts was at some point Adam Schiff quoted a CBS News article where it said that any Republican senators who vote against Trump and his interests are going to put their head on a pike. And apparently that was too much for Susan Collins. It was I can't even have him bring this sort of thing up here in this venue. It's not proper. And that's what got both sides a talk. Every single one of these possible swing votes is looking for anything that could happen where they don't have to do this vote. Like,
yeah, yep.
I've heard a lot of people say that the vote is either going to be three turning over for more witnesses or 20, because there's no like this just barely sneaks out. If there's 4 senators who vote for more witnesses and it becomes a thing, because that's the difference right now, then those 4 are going to get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And it's not for someone like Romney, it makes sense because Trump isn't very popular in Utah, even though
also
he's definitely going to win Utah.
Yeah. He also hates him personally, I feel like. So it's just like, more witnesses. Sounds good to me. Yay.
I don't even understand, though, just as one last little point here, I don't even understand Ted Cruz in this whole thing. Because, you know, like Trump says that your father killed Kennedy and your wife's a pig and embarrasses you in front of everybody. You make a speech at the Republican National Convention saying, like, you want to bring civility back to this whole process, and this direction is just wrong and immoral, and then quickly gets in line and never to be heard from again. I mean, like, I just don't even people who thought Ted Cruz was an answer. I'd like to hear what you have to say about him quietly sitting aside for every little bit of this.
Well, the problem is he's now got an endangered species of thrush living in his beard, and he's really afraid to disrupt the fines that can come from disrupting the breeding area of the thrush is huge. So what he wants to do is just sit in the back, allow them to do their breeding, their nesting, and then once they move on, which will likely be
once they go to another host.
Yes, once, which will likely be after the impeachment. Just after the impeachment ends, then we'll start hearing from Ted Cruz again. Lucky us. But I do want to mention something that I thought was far more impressive than the impeachment proceedings, and something which really impressed strongly upon me in the last 24 hours. We went and saw 1917 last night, and to all the naysayers who are wondering why that movie is doing so well during awards season, go see the movie.
Yeah, it's worth it.
But we are in the heart of award season now. I think we have the SAG Awards behind us, the Production Guild PGA Awards are behind us as well. And we are coming up on Academy Awards are coming up. Golden Globes behind us too from last week.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of building towards the Academy Awards. And I think that it was friend of the show Roberto who said off the top, just like, what is 1917 and why is it nominated for everything?
Yeah.
And then first comment after we got back out of the movie last night was just like, okay, so that's why it's nominated for everything. Just visually stunning, completely well done. But it's also I don't want to give it too much accolades because it's in a field that is full of really amazing movies this year.
Yeah.
But I want to only say that about 1917 because it's like part of the thing that we try to do every year is to go see all the nominated movies exactly for that reason. Because you don't want to go into it kind of blind and not knowing what movies are nominated.
Yeah, and the last couple of years, I think we've missed like one.
Yeah.
And it just sort of happens. Like you just run out of time to see them all. But yeah, so as far as prognosticating the awards, the two of the big ones to look at prior to the Academy Awards are the SAG Awards and the PGA Awards.
Right.
Because they do a lot to push people towards what will eventually win in the Oscars, because the SAG is the largest voting body in the Academy.
And for those not in the industry, the Screen Actors Guild and the Producers Guild of America. So it's the voting bodies of screen actors and producers, who many of which are also members of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
Yeah. As far as...
So elitist, Corey. Just assuming that people know what those are.
Sorry.
Look at you, industry insider.
A lot of the winners of SAG are ones that I imagine we're going to hear on Oscar night. Joaquin Phoenix, Renee Zellweger, Brad Pitt, Laura Dern. They have seemed to sort of round it into form as the people who are most likely to win because they're winning a lot of things. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of TV stuff, too, in the SAG Awards.
I think Tony Shalhoub. Is that Tony Shalhoub?
Yeah.
For Marvelous Miss Maisel?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Good for him.
Because they won Ensemble as well for comedy, and The Crown for drama. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Peter Dinklage. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't really matter as much to the Academy. I would say, though, something that I enjoy that the SAG Awards does that the Academy does not. Stunt award. There's an award for stunts. Avengers Endgame won it. I'm sure the people watching at home who have seen a movie like Avengers Endgame and not so much a movie like 1917 would like an opportunity to root for a movie they've actually seen. So it would be a great opportunity to...
Is that a new edition, or is that something they've done for a while?
I don't know how recently it came in. I know I just noticed it there, and I was just like, oh, good.
Yeah.
Because, I don't feel like every single piece of the pie that makes a movie needs to necessarily win an Academy Award. There doesn't need to be an Academy Award for catering, for instance, or best background work. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Even though those can be very important for the process.
And there is one actor from 1917 who would win Best Background Work because he appeared in like 9 of the scenes.
Just constantly looking at it. Hey!
There's just like one blonde guy who is like, he looks like he's really from 1917. Let's just throw that dude back in there again. Yeah. Well, oh wait, what? It's 30 miles away and 10 minutes later? Who cares? Throw him in the background. It's fine. Nobody will notice.
So, the big ones to pay attention to here, though, is a good sign for it going into the Academy. But at the SAG Awards, motion picture cast went to Parasite, which is also sort of like an outside favorite, and it's looking like right now going in 1917, Parasite, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and an outside shot for Jojo Rabbit are like the top 4 in the running right now
For Best Picture.
With the end of the SAG Awards and the PGA Awards to guide us in that direction. But it's going to be interesting to watch. It's hard to look past when it comes to Best Picture because, sometimes the popularity of something getting nominated so many times helps carry it a little bit. I don't think that it will win Best Picture. I've always thought it was kind of a fringe Best Picture nominee to begin with, even though I liked it a lot. It's just I don't know, just hard to see it winning. But I would definitely, if there was money to be putting on it, I think 1917 has just bolstered its award credibility with the PGA Award.
Yeah, I think we've seen now 6 of the 9 nominees for Best Picture. If I remember, it was 5 before, and now I'd seen 5, you've seen 4. And now I've seen 1917 as well. Have you seen Jojo Rabbit?
Yes.
Okay. I can't remember which of the... Yeah, if you can pull it up. Pull up the Best Picture nominees because I'm trying to remember. But I think Joaquin basically has Best Actor locked up for... I mean, who knows, obviously, because it's a voting body who decides. But he's doing really well in every one of the like pre-Oscars lineups. Brad Pitt is doing... Brad Pitt is doing well.
I get fucking stuck on Bing.
Why are you searching with Bing?
Well, here's the thing. I downloaded the Edge Chromium.
Yes.
Because I like the idea of being able to use the engine of Chrome without all the extra horsepower that Chrome requires.
Right, yeah.
So I've been trying it out casually here, but I haven't figured out the way to change the search engine. So because it's Edge, they just want to send me to Bing.
Yeah. Guess what?
And when I
You
type
can't.
in Academy Award or Oscar nominations, it's just like, hey, here's who's winning the Grammys. I'm just like, shut the fuck up.
I'm not dumb. I know this is for dumb people, and you're thinking I'm watching something. It must be the Grammys.
Like it wasn't even the Academy's like nominations page wasn't even the first one that came up, and I'm just like, how is this? Let's go here.
So, but by the way, again, seeing ever, it can't be that low, can it? It's gotta be at the top.
I would think so, and then it wasn't. All the acting ones were.
Well, maybe right below that. Music, makeup. Oh, it's got to be above those.
Editing, documentary short, documentary feature,
directing, costume. This is very exciting for those people.
Yeah, I know. All the people looking at us scrolling on a page. Come on, you motherfuckers.
Really?
Really? Just hiding somewhere in the middle.
Search for best. Just do a Command F. Control F. Oh, not best, because that will be
Picture.
Yeah, picture. Picture's what you want. There we go.
What the fuck?
No? Best picture, not
Jesus
in the
Christ,
list.
you guys. Now I got a problem with the Oscars site.
All right, come on, Oscars. Why? You know what everybody wants. Just give us the best pictures. That's what we're looking for. Here we go. All right. Go
And
through
of
the
course,
list.
this is an article where they just fuck me.
You assholes.
Talk about the APA real
The
quick.
internet is failure. So another thing that happened this week is that the APA signed the WGA agreement. Now, we talked about this a while ago, that the WGA went out on strike for a bit, and then they came back, but they said, hey, we are not going to sign this. We want you to sign this agreement, or we're not going to move out. So it's been a pseudo strike that's not really been a strike, because it's against the agents, not against the studios themselves. So they're back from the strike with the studios, but now they have this problem with the agents. And basically they're saying, we're holding out until you sign. APA isn't the biggest of the agencies, but it is considered one of the larger agencies. And they have now agreed to sign the WGA agreement. And basically it is more velocity moving towards forcing William Morris and creative artists to sign this agreement, which they're saying is you cannot both represent me and be the production company that's benefiting from my work.
Right.
And so,
because at some point it's within your benefit to keep the cost down.
Yes, and that means you're negotiating against me, your client, and you're packaging my stuff with another one of your artists together, and so you're getting his fee, my fee, and a fee for production. But you're the producer, so you're the one controlling the fees in some ways.
Deciding how much money. Like again, I heard a podcast recently with some huge star who was just like, "Oh yeah, you remember Armageddon?" Like I don't remember who it was, but let's say it was Affleck in Armageddon. Mm-hmm. He's like, "Hey, yeah, remember Armageddon? How it made all that money? Apparently not. If you look at their bookkeeping,
yes, yeah,
it's never made a penny. It's always losing money."
And that's what would happen. And imagine if your agent, the one who was supposed to argue for more money for you, was the one trying to keep the profits down on the books. So APA has now agreed to sign, which puts pressure on the other large agencies, because now people who are without an agent, because they have said, I'm not going to work with you, agent who's with William Morris, they're saying, well, I can go over to APA and get the same level of representation I got from creative artists or from William Morris, but get it through somebody who signed the WGA agreement. And if they start seeing a flood of their old clients, to just sign it so they can not lose more clients. But anyway, it remains to see if that's going to be true.
Best picture?
Yes.
Let's just do a yes, no.
Okay.
Ford v. Ferrari?
No.
No. Irishman? Yes. Jojo Rabbit? Yes. Joker? Yes. Little Women?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Marriage Story? Yes.
No.
1917? Yes. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Yes. Parasite? Yes.
Yes.
So you haven't seen Marriage Story and Little Women.
Right.
I haven't seen Little Women.
Right. I was going to say, well, I've started Marriage Story.
Or Ford versus Ferrari, too. We both haven't seen that. So I would need to see two of them here.
So I have seen 6 of 9. You've seen 7 of 9.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, but that my whole point of that was cinematography. I don't know how anyone's going to surpass Deakins in 1917.
Yeah, there was a bunch of them that I was watching, and I was just like, I don't understand. Technically speaking, from like a department standpoint, like there was so much great about the. My only real complaint I think about 1917 is that like the story wasn't as good as I would like it to be, but I think that was at loss because you were sort of following a real time.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't an opportunity to have like a compelling B plot like you would have in another movie because another war movie because there's never the opportunity where you're breaking away from the action that you're at to go to two soldiers in the barracks going like, my brother died in this war a month ago,
Right.
Like,
and I mean, you never see the same group twice, really. It's like
Right.
these two guys moving and they come upon other people, but how do you have a B plot when there's no one else really? So
and I mean, like it's one of those things. Like usually, another great determination for what will win Best Picture is the editing awards. The editors union throws together that one, and that has a pretty strong chance of winning Best Picture. But this one is the only one where I think that editing was kind of worthless for 1917 because all the cutting happened in camera. Like it wasn't determined by the editor; it was determined by how they were shooting it. There was very little opportunity for him to change this movie in any kind of ridiculous way.
Yep, it was storyboarded out as a one shot, and it maintaining that throughout. So yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I'm sure the editor did a lot of work. You just don't see it.
I mean, they did a lot of work for sure. It's not like they didn't deserve to have an editor.
Yeah.
But there was no at point where he had to make the decision. Like, do I put work better if this moment is moved up ahead of time?
Nope.
Like it's all pretty much well decided ahead of time.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have him running down this way first or that way first? Well, he after he makes his turn, he turns right, and then he comes down the other way. There's no other way you could do it. I'm sorry. The set piece is what it is. This is how we have to do it. Sorry. But yeah. So Oscars are in 2 weeks.
February 9th, I
Right.
think so.
So we got a lot of this week. Not much happened this week, but Super Bowl next week, and then Oscars the week after that.
Yeah.
And then finally it calms down.
I totally forgot about Super Bowl next week. We should have talked about. Should have previewed the matchup a little bit. You know what? Here's the problem, though.
Corey doesn't want to talk about sports ball this week.
I wonder why. The Pro Bowl happened today.
Yes.
And normally I would take any opportunity I could to watch Lamar Jackson do things.
Hey, wait. Okay, good.
Normally I would take any opportunity I can to watch Lamar Jackson do stuff, but I just as soon as the season ends, I just sort of feel done with football. And I turned on the Pro Bowl for a little bit here and there, just sort of saw what was happening. I wasn't really like super invested in it. I'm glad the AFC won, I guess, but like,
Matt, but they're playing touch football now, basically. Like, forward
you know,
progress stop.
it's whatever. I would say that they did the 4th and 15 rule in this, and even if they don't end up doing that for real life, I think that the Pro Bowl is an interesting place to throw in oddballs that you're considering maybe in the future. It would look like in real action, and it would throw an interesting kink into a game that doesn't otherwise mean anything, like.
And much like everything in real life, Kirk Cousins ruined it.
And I mean, like, the other thing too is like, sometimes when I'm playing Madden, if I'm beating somebody pretty thoroughly, there's like a decision I make at some point, like, fourth quarter, where I'm just like, all right, I'm going to win this game regardless, but maybe instead of running the ball out, I'm just going to throw the ball and give them an opportunity to pick it off and like make it closer. Just to make this a little bit more compelling. Like, there's no point in me beating up Roberto by 30 points. Like, at some point I can just start, like being a little bit more carefree with things and seeing what happens, I feel like that kind of logic would apply for the Pro Bowl as well. So if there's a rule that you're thinking about that would increase competitive balance, then maybe throw it in the Pro Bowl to see what's up. Because they can't just steal all their ideas from the XFL. Like,
although that's starting 3 weeks from now, that starts up too.
Yeah.
It's going to be Super Bowl, Oscars, XFL. Yes, that's an exciting 3 weeks.
I'm curious to see what they. It's so fast though. I mean, like, I know last time they really they tried to figure out the whole league in 6 weeks, and at least this time they took a year and a half. But it still feels like it's coming up, and don't entirely know what's going to happen.
So their big push this week, a couple weeks ago, it was uniforms are out. Everybody check out the uniforms. This week it was, where do you live in the country and what team should you cheer for? Because it's like, yeah, you live in Kansas. This is how we broke down the country. You're in the fire country or whatever it is.
It's always like, I like the map of MLB TV right territories.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah,
that's an interesting, like, to see what part of the country is covered by your... And, like, some teams just have humongous swaths because it's like...
No one is here.
Colorado Rockies are the number one team for, like, 8 states because there's no major league team there.
Yep.
And it just sort of, like, takes up all the space.
And
Because I remember my buddy Chris, he lived in Wyoming. And he's just like, yeah, a lot of the people I knew there were Avalanche fans because that's the closest stadium to you. So you drive 7 hours.
And they still have less people in their media area than New York City.
Yeah.
All of that area, all of those states. And by the way, back to the news column, and they still have less people in their media area than New York City.
Yeah.
All of that area, all of those states. And by the way, back to the news column, those senators, their vote counts just as much. 2 votes for each state. What are you going to do?
Just a quick reminder. I like to every so often I like to put this out there. The least populous states, the least populous 33 states, are about 15 million people, which is, if you include like sort of the outlying areas, is basically New York and LA by themselves.
Yep.
So,
and as you said,
33 states or 33 states, 66 votes, same amount as 2 states with 4 votes.
And if you want to limit it,
really, if you're speaking about California,
yeah,
with so many populated cities, it's not like one senator is really
nearly 15 million people.
Yeah.
2 votes. And if you want to talk about strict urban areas, okay, great. So Chicago, New York, and LA, 15 million people, 6 votes, equal to the 66 votes on the other side. So
yeah, if you want to back out all the parts of California which aren't considered LA for whatever reason.
Well, yeah, and
Santa Monica is not part of LA. Beverly Hills is a part of LA.
And I mean, even if you want to say, okay, so but half the state's Republican, right? Because the northern half is very conservative, and the eastern half is kind of conservative as well. You know, when we were going to split into 5 states, all the ones that would end up having Republican senators.
I feel like the Eastern Shore, though. I was just gonna like sort of go around San Francisco and then
go around LA,
go all the way down to San Jose, and then just anything that's not there, go down to LA, and then just around that.
San Diego down to the end. Yeah,
take little pockets of Orange County for yourself because why not?
I mean, and that's like the number of people in upstate New York is less than the number of people in the urban area of New York City alone.
It's like, yeah, Gilroy is pretty conservative, but it's also less people live there than Glendale.
Yeah,
which is not the biggest part of LA. So, moving on.
Yeah.
The Baseball Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah.
I feel like this we could talk about this enough time until we run out of show. What are we at right now?
Almost an hour.
Oh, getting close to.
Yes.
Because we've never gone over an hour before.
Never.
So I want to make sure. Hour. Derek Jeter got elected to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He was on all but one ballot. And there were some people who were a little bit upset that
didn't get a unanimous
vote, which only happened once with Rivera, which is all kind of stupid conjecture at this point because it started by people saying like, well, there should be nobody who's unanimous.
Right.
And then as soon as one unanimous vote actually comes through, then people are just like, this is our new benchmark. Like Cal Ripken didn't get a unanimous vote. And it's just like, yeah, well, you know, if Mo got elected before Cal Ripken, then I'm sure it would have been different. Like, you know.
But also, Mariano Rivera was the most dominant player in his position in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
Cal Ripken, baseball's Iron Man. Fantastic shortstop. Decent at bat. No one will ever say he was the most dominant player at his position in the history of the sport.
No, he was a very important player, but he wasn't like the most...
And important to the team.
Yeah.
But not
important
to
baseball, too.
Yeah.
Like,
Derek Jeter, important to the team, dominant player, at which position that he played for half his career. But
see, here's the thing. I still maintain Jeter should be down on his knees praying every single night that God put him on the Yankees. Because if he was with the Kansas City Royals, just by happenstance, you could have gotten drafted by any of the 30 teams. Like, if he got drafted by the Royals, he would not have stayed at shortstop.
No.
He just was not good enough at shortstop at the time. And, like, you know, as much as we talk about, like, awards and stuff like that. Like for a while there, the baseball Golden Glove Awards were a humongous popularity contest. Rafael Palmeiro won a Gold Glove at first base, and he played like 12 games there, of which he didn't really do all that great. Like he wasn't,
But he was a very popular baseball
a
player.
very popular guy, so
Yeah.
he got a Gold Glove. Jeter would not have won any Gold Gloves, I don't think, if he played for Kansas City. He probably would be a second baseman if he played for Kansas City, and he would not have had the opportunity to raise to the level of huge national superstar if he was in Kansas City. So before we start saying like Jeter should have been unanimous and greatest shortstop of all time and blah 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 blah, just remember that there is a humongous amount of Yankee bias and Yankee winning that accompanied the Jeter legacy.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, this is not me saying that Jeter is not good enough to be in the Hall of Fame or his numbers don't support it or anything like that. I'm just saying that there is an awful lot of good luck with him just going to the Yankees.
Yep.
He would not have the World Series championships that are part of his resume. He would not have had the, success in the playoffs, which is part of the legacy. He would not have had.
And again, I juxtapose that to a guy who all of the championships, all of the playoffs weren't what put him in the Hall of Fame. When they play his song and he comes out of the bullpen, everyone's like, oh, shit.
Yeah,
Because he is a shut-down pitcher. In the 8th or the 9th inning, he will shut you down for the rest of the game, 99 out of 100. You have professional baseball players who are just like, I do not want to go up and face this guy. I mean, yes, it's my job. We're having incredible hot streaks and just whiffing on Mariano Rivera's pitches. That is a dominant player, and that is the kind of guy. And I don't know who you compare him to. Who else has been like that at their position? Like Nolan Ryan, maybe. But the problem was not through his whole career. Mariano Rivera was that guy from the moment he came out.
Well, you know what I think really for Rivera. And again, it burns me to speak well of Yankees.
I know,
like
and I
this.
hate it.
Really,
I hate defending
really
a
upsets
Yankee.
me. But like with Mo at the very least, like a closer was kind of a hey, we need to throw somebody out there in the last inning. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
sure. Like it was sort of like whoever was whoever could finish it up. Like
Ubaldo, hey, he can keep it together for 3 outs. Let's get him out there.
No, he can't. I can tell you from experience. No, he can't. It was with Rivera's climb that it became, we need to specifically groom somebody for the purpose of being the closer because this role is such an important thing. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's 3 outs. It's not really all. You should be focused on the starting pitcher who's going to get you 15 outs,
Right.
as opposed to the closer who's going to get you 3. But it's the end of the game, so there's a lot of pressure, and there's a different kind of thing. And he kind of made that. Like, there were closers before that who were, feared, and, they shut down a game and blah, blah, blah. But nobody sort of rose it to the level where it's like everyone has to have one, you know?
I mean, he was the guy that no matter what, if you only put a closer in when
Mariano Rivera was the automatic checkout machine at the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's just like the first time you saw it, you were just like, oh, every grocery.
But I mean, you only put in a closer when you're leading going into the 9th inning.
Yeah.
Right. So the 15 outs before that the starter is putting up mean nothing if the guy you put in gives up that lead in the 9th inning. He was the guy who came out and said, "It's nearly all game. I am not going to give up whatever lead we have," and that redefined the position of who's coming up to bat doesn't matter. I'm going to shut it down. 3 up, 3 down. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And that's something. So.
And to the conversation of Jeter and like his value if he wasn't on the Yankees type of thing, I think Larry Walker, who also got nominated or also got elected, example of that, going from the Expos to the Rockies to the Cardinals, his ability was. He was always one of the best players on his team. I don't know if he was ever like an MVP type candidate. Like he wasn't in the All-Star. He wasn't that great. He was an All-Star a lot. Yeah. I mean, like
he's a guy I always confuse with John Kruk. He is the guy who put the helmet on backwards when Johnson threw the fastball over his head at the All-Star game.
No, that was Kruk.
No, it wasn't. I'm telling you, it was Larry.
Was
Walker.
it Larry Walker?
Larry Walker. I always say it's John Kruk, and it's not. It's Larry Walker. Johnson threw a fastball over his head, and it hit like right above his helmet. He stepped across and switched up the bat and turned the helmet around backwards.
So you're right. You said it so many times it got ingrained in my memory.
And now I remember the right one, which is Larry Walker who did that.
But I think that, if you put Jeter on the Expos and the Rockies and the Cardinals, then we're probably going to be talking about him too in the same way of like, will he make it on his final year on the ballot and stuff like that. Remember that with these things, with sports in general, that there's an awful lot of luck that just goes involved with being able to be in a situation where you can overcome great things.
Yeah.
A similar. Oh my God! Regrettably talking about.
Well,
this.
no, I was gonna say I think that's everything for this week, right?
Oh, really?
No other big topics that you wanted to talk about this week?
R.I.P. Kobe Bryant. Bye. Click.
Unfortunately, I'm in control of the stream.
I'm in control of the audio. Click.
Oh, that's true.
No. I guess we can talk shortly about Kobe. Just put
Go
it
ahead.
at the end of
I'm
this thing,
putting you
right?
on the screen. Go.
I will say this. I think it was very shocking news to hear this morning that Kobe died. You never expect something like this when it happens suddenly like this. And, he was one of the best 10 basketball players to ever play, best of his generation. And especially, like, a lot of times with the NBA, you think about things in decades. He was the player of the 2000s, where LeBron sort of became the player of the 2010s, and Jordan was sort of the player of the 90s. Like, it sort of follows within these steps. And particularly here in LA, where Kobe, who was often misunderstood for better or for worse, was embraced. There are lots of problems in Kobe's past, which I don't feel like now is the right time to necessarily discuss, even though Rob has a different opinion. But yeah, I mean, like, it's just it's a sad day here in LA. You could tell that the atmosphere here was a little bit different, because there was a lot of people very upset about what had happened.
A player so great, he had to play under two numbers because his greatness could not be held by one number, right? That's why he changed numbers in the middle of his career.
I don't remember exactly which numbers,
the
but
rape allegations. That was it. It was the rape allegations during his career that
it was interesting though that he did that to sell his jersey to all the fans that had bought it already again.
And of course, he
used
all the proceeds from that to build a better world, right?
Yep.
Super choke. Yeah.
Shall we just close up the show now?
So listen.
Do you want to put yourself on?
I'll take Corey's.
You want to give yourself a minute?
I'll take Corey's pre-show advice and I'll wheel back my pre-show comments to 20% of the level, and I'll say, statistically, 100 people died overnight from exposure. One person took a private helicopter from his home in Orange County to his daughter's basketball camp in Calabasas, which is maybe a 40-minute drive, maybe an hour drive. And that helicopter crashed, tragically, killing him and his daughter. And it's sad that someone died. It is sadder that 100 people died from something that they could have been very much prevented. I think I made the argument in the pre-show meeting that if we had taken proportional amount of and given it to build housing for homeless people or make housing available, then the 100 people who statistically died from exposure overnight would not have died, and also he would not have had a helicopter to take to Calabasas, so perhaps all lives could have been saved. I think that is a fair assessment. But this is why I get upset at these moments, because all of you are fake. You're all fake. Corey's sitting here next to me, very worried about what I'm about to say. You can see him right there. He's very worried about what I'm saying. He's slightly fake. You are all fake. 5 people. The hero worship makes me really, really sick. I fucking hate hero worship. And I hate myself for wearing jerseys with other grown men's numbers and names on the back. I do that to be part of the group because that's what you do when you go watch games. But the way that you deify someone after death, ignoring the fact of, the multiple rape allegations, the way that he has lived his life all up to all that, not really the point. I see Corey's getting very worried over here.
So far this is going better than I thought it would.
So I think that overarchingly, my point is just this. You are weighing the lives of 1 versus 100, and you could not give a shit less. In fact, most of you probably did not know until I said it, that statistically 100 people died from exposure overnight. And yet you are deifying someone who perhaps doesn't deserve your deification. He played a game better than 99% of the people who can play it. He's not even the best one to play it. Don't at me. He's not. He's not as good as Michael, and he's not as good as LeBron. And that's just 2 people. Given all the statistics, I could probably mention many more people who he was not as good as. But that's not the point either.
I think the argument could be made too that much like the conversation we just had with Jeter, the fact that he had his entire career in Los Angeles franchises, and a franchise that constantly puts themselves in the position to win championships was a benefit to him. Because he's thought of as a multiple-time NBA champion. And, I mean, like, he was originally drafted by the Hornets, and or at the time, the Bobcats, I think.
Yeah.
Wait, 96. No, Hornets.
Yeah, it would have been.
But the rights were traded to the Lakers for Vlade Divac, I think. So, like...
Solid trade.
I think, this would be way different if he was a Hornet his entire career as opposed to a Laker.
But, listen, in the end... Is it sad that a man died? Sure. Is it sad that his daughter...
and his daughter, yeah.
I was going to say, it's sad that his daughter died, even more so. But...
And that 8 other people...
died along with
7
him.
other people died along with them as well.
Tragic.
All tragic.
Tragic. However, that happened once on one Sunday morning. Every morning in this country, 100 people find... a friend of theirs, an associate, a colleague, someone that they know even only by face and not but necessarily by name, dead. And that problem is much bigger, and I don't see anyone. And you can be like Corey, and you can say, hey, you really talk about that problem, and you don't do anything to fix it, which I do. But I'm trying to be delicate. Again, 40-minute car ride to Calabasas. Play with this. So you get into a flying machine. Sometimes flying machines crash. That's part of what the risk that you take with life, I guess. I get into a car. I run the risk that I'm going to get into a crash and die. None of you will deify me, especially after this commentary. None of you will deify me at my death. And no one should be deified at their death. We're all fucking horrible people who have done things that we shouldn't have. And let's just be like, oh, it's sad. And, Corey made the argument that he's inspired a lot of people. And that's true. He has. He's inspired a lot of people. And maybe is that penance for the sin done beforehand? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not.
I mean, I think that, in time... especially with sort of the awakening of like a Me Too era and stuff like that, I think in time Kobe's legacy will be remembered differently than it is at this exact moment. Because obviously, like, a time where people don't usually want to think about like Jade died, and my mom was delicately trying to tell all of us kids at the same time that Jade had died, and she was just like, all right, well, I have some bad news. Jade died last night. And Brendan pipes up from the backseat. He's like, good! Normally, that's not the reaction that people have when somebody dies. It's not usually like good. There's usually at least a little bit of time where people are like, in the good things. And, if you have a complicated history like Kobe does, the complicated things can get brought up, but it's not really dissected as much as the overall life is celebrated for whatever purpose it serves. And I think that in the long run, there might be more to Kobe's complicated legacy that will get brought up and get, the Aaron Hernandez Netflix special treatment or something like that. But
God, I hope so. But I think that the overall just thing is that I would
even
not
though that's not quite, 3 murders is not quite the same thing.
we don't know. We don't know, Corey. I would say, but it just, I would have been fine, but it was the building over the course of the 19 TVs on 19 different networks, and all of them talking about this fantastic god of a man who we've lost too soon, who is the best basketball player ever and who is a great human being.
See, but I think so much of that is just the ability to get somebody's eyeballs. Like, the reason why everyone's talking about it is because it's so shocking. Nobody woke up this morning saying, like, well, today's the day that Kobe dies. Like, you know, it wasn't out there in the universe like that.
But
and
again,
like,
he's just a guy.
Oh, I know he's just a guy.
Thousands,
but I'm
hundreds
saying,
of thousands of people died in the last 24 hours.
I get it, but I'm saying, like, when somebody dies suddenly, it's like you weren't thinking about them, and then all of a sudden you are never going to see or hear from them again, and that elicits, like, when I saw the first I saw it was on Citizen this morning.
Yes.
When it said helicopter crash, Kobe Bryant rumored to be on helicopter, and then I started doing the thing of like, oh well, how are we? How do we know that? And I started looking into stories about like how we knew it, and you know they knew about the helicopter and the flying and everything like that. People are interested in getting as much of the story as they can right now. So therefore, the interest of the people who give the news is to give more news about Kobe because people will want to hear it. You know, like there's more of a thirst for Kobe news today because of the death than there is on a regular Tuesday prior to the death, and it's not confusing why that's the case. You know,
I'm going to quote one of your favorite shows.
Okay.
100 years ago, the American government said, we have this free resource called the airwaves, and we, the American people, are going to give networks. For us giving this to you, we are going to ask only one thing, that you spend 1 hour a day educating the American people on what's going on in the world around them. And that would eventually become the news. Mm-hmm. And the one mistake they made in giving away those airwaves for free, allowed to sell advertisements during that segment.
Yeah.
Newsroom. Episode 2.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's very good. Episode 1 is probably the best episode of television ever made, but episode 2 is very good.
It's certainly the best opening, I think, for a long time.
Yes.
There's been few openings that sort of capture the imagination like that one, but
and I'm going to let Corey give you a closing that is going to be just as good as that episode of the Newsroom, but before that I'm going to say, complain that Kobe never passed. He just did.
Well, this certainly went better than I hoped it would. If you want more experiences like that, you know.
Where's that?
OTheAnthem.com. Corey to OTheAnthem.com. Oh, the Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line. 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com. Saw 1917. We'll record review for 1917. When, I don't know, because I'm on set all week. Hopefully one of these days I have a late call, or maybe I'll just like film it at like 2 a.m. or something like that.
Ooh, keep everybody up. That's a good plan.
I'm going to figure out some time to record it, and I'll put it out there, and I think you'll want to listen to it because it was a good movie and worth seeing.
Wait. Sorry. I was pulling
up, what its rating will be, though, I think is weird. I'm still calculating that, you know?
Oh, no. You were so positive about it when we walked out. We thought we all agreed about a movie for once.
No, I mean, like, I'm saying it's going to be very highly ranked.
Oh, okay.
But, like,
right.
the sussing out the little details that get you between a...
What's your highest ranked movie right now? 9.2 for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yes, I believe so. Hold on. I'll get you the exact number of it.
You pull that up while I do my thing. So send me your hate mail. I won't care, but at me all you want. At Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks. You can find more from me at robertncheek.com, where you can find links to all the stuff, including the books, which are available on Amazon.
Barra's Books.
Thank you. I have also... this week has been Sean Baker week for the Everyman movie review. We did Tangerine and Florida Project, so you can check out both of those, both of which are live right now. I have a whole long list of stuff to do. High Life, Brawl in Cell 99, Cell Block 99, Star Wars. Star Wars is out. Two Popes, and now, of course, 1917. So I got a bunch of stuff coming this week. Just got to find some time to record in between working, which apparently I have to be back at work at 9 a.m. again tomorrow. Yeah, or 6 a.m. again tomorrow. So that's
Once Upon a Time was 9.3.
Ooh,
that was the highest.
That's the high mark.
Yeah.
High water mark. What's the one after that? Let's just say
8.9 for Joker.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that's some tough competition.
So we have two Best Picture nominees right up there, and
Yeah.
and I'll tell you this without without having to think too hard about it, 1917 will be within that general range. Like it'll be somewhere up there because it's certainly just as enjoyable as those two. It was a really good year for movies. This last year. I think we're all taken very good care of by Hollywood and their movies this year.
And based on some of the previews, it's looking like 2020 is going to be just good. So
yeah, I mean, not as many superhero stuff or stuff like that, but more independent fare could be interesting. See how the 2021 Oscars shape up.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. As you said, could have been much worse.
Yeah, I'm just thankful that we're no longer recording the pre-show because if this was on Patreon, I'm pretty sure Patreon would have deleted us based off of the conversation we were having out on the balcony.
Woo, boy.
I'm just worried that there's somebody in the balcony who heard us and is just like, we're going to fucking kill that guy tonight.
I think that's what the dude in the car waving the Kobe jersey was saying. Anyway, we've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the Oh, the Anthem podcast, part of the Oh, the Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great...